Hello and welcome to Freedom Through Astrology, where we're giving you the keys. As you can see, my camera is still messed up. Apologize for my voice. It's been one of those weekends. No, I didn't watch any sports. This is freedomthroughastrology.com. My name is Donald Patak. I'm your astrologer. There's my contact information, standard YouTube copyright. And I read astrology differently. Usually I have a pile of kittens with me. I read astrology based on the visible sky. It's called constellation-based astrology, sometimes called true sidereal. It's astrology using the visible sky, as opposed to tropical astrology, which fixed the signs to seasons back in ancient Greco-Roman times. I'm looking at where the planets are in the visible sky right now. And that's what I'm reading because that's what ancient astrologers were. They were astronomers. They were reading where things were in the sky. And when you do that, you get another sign. There's a 13th sign in the sky between Scorpio and Sagittarius. It's called Ophiuchus. The symbol is that of a man holding a snake by the head and the tail. The snake in ancient times symbolized knowledge. So this is gaining knowledge, ideally learning to heal. Hold on a second, kitten. So learning to heal yourself so you can heal others. It's really only his foot that's in the zodiac belt, but hey, it's still there. I read it because it's where you learn to heal your own life. I use the natural size of the constellations because Mother Nature in her wisdom made them all different sizes. Virgo is huge at just under 50 degrees, but I just mentioned Scorpio. Scorpio is barely 25. The constellations are all different sizes, so I leave them be. And I use what are called astrological midpoints. Athens Chimenti noticed that the IAU boundaries, which are used by astronomers, will take stars from one constellation and actually shove them into a different one, which is not really correct. So what he did with the zodiac belt is that he found where constellation A had its last brightest star, constellation B had its first, figured out the midpoint, and works pretty good. Unlike me trying to control this kitten in my lap. And the second part, I read by evolutionary astrology, which says the chart is giving you lessons to learn and that you have freedom of choice. So the constellations, the planets, the stars, etc., are giving you opportunities to learn. You decide what you're going to do with it. This is the weekly edition. These are universal lessons, so do have some compassion on your fellow Earth travelers. The dates are based on the Eastern U.S. time zone, as I do live outside Buffalo, New York. I'm reading them within 1 degree of exact. If I went beyond that, I would get overwhelmed. You would be lost. So it makes the readings very manageable. Plus, within 1 degree is when these transits are going to be the most intense. So that kind of helps that too. And the software that I use is Capricorn by Prometheus. So this is our overview for the week, which is kind of interesting. It's the week of September 22nd through 28th, 2025. We do have the sun in Virgo. It's in very early Virgo. The moon is actually, for most of the week, fairly stable. It's in Virgo. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday into Thursday, it's in Virgo. It's a stable moon. And then Thursday, late Friday, and Sunday, it jumps from Libra to Scorpio into Ophiuchus. So expect the weekend to be a little bit busier. Okay. We don't really have a major moon phase this week, which is unusual. We do have normally I read the quarters, the first quarter, last quarter, and the full moon. Well, the way the moons are falling with the natural lunar month, we actually don't have a major phase. We actually do have a minor phase, a crescent moon. I probably am going to post that on my blog, but I just don't have it prepared for today. The active planet this week is the sun, your core identity. So learning who you are, making plans, delving into that. So that's the inner planet that's active. On the outer planets, we still have this long triggering transit of Uranus and Neptune acting on Pluto. It's going to be going on for quite some time. So there's that. And then retrograde. Retrograde means reflection or time of inner work. So a lot of the outer planets, you have the outer planet parade with Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, and the asteroid Chiron, all going retrograde. So there's that. So let's take a look at our week here. Let me get my doodle tool going. We'll start with the moon. As you can see, began the week in Virgo, and it's really not until Thursday morning that we get that break into Libra, and that goes into late Friday. We go late Friday all the way through Saturday, early Sunday morning, we have Scorpio, and then on Sunday we have, on the 7th day, depending on how you number your calendar, take a day of rest. We have this moon in Ophiuchus, time of healing. So really this week emotionally is focusing on becoming more emotionally skilled. And you can see down here, here we do have like the outer planets really acting on Pluto and transiting Pluto. We are finishing up one transit from last week, the sun with Saturn, but that ties into the other whatever. Node to the moon, still in opposition. This dotted line shows you the new transits, and as you can see, 3 transits for the sun, and it's going to be, we do have an opposition to Neptune, and then the trine to Uranus and a trine to Pluto, which is going to make a grand trine, which I will talk about when we get to that point. So early week, a lot of transits, a moment of intensity starting really late Monday and into actually early Tuesday really is when you're still going to start feeling it the most intense. But yeah, and in something totally unrelated, but sort of related, we do have this oddball, no, it isn't really an oddball. We do have that Mars squaring, which is this challenger strengthening Pluto. So really a lot of things pointing at Pluto. So a lot of energy that ideally works with you to help you to achieve doing that inner work of transformation and deep healing. So let me clean this up. Okay, the kitten is actually calm in my lap. All right, so this started way back in June and will be, whoops, no, didn't want to restart that. There we go. This started way back in June, will be actually ending soon. We have Pluto sextiling, or taking a break at least. Pluto sextiling, or being sextiled by Neptune. And this is a sextile. Sextile is a time of excitement or interest. Neptune in Pisces. Neptune is the planet of spirituality, just learning to be. And in Pisces, where it rules, again, just reinforcing that beingness, that sense of spirituality. If there's, I like the way Stephen Forrest says it. Neptune in Pisces, don't just do something, sit there, be there. Learn to be present and in the moment, especially spiritually present. And as you learn to do that, that helps you to find an interest and can lead you and guide you in doing that deep work of inner transformation. That's Pluto is the planet of deep healing. And in Capricorn, Capricorn is my GSD sign, where Virgo is more roll up the sleeves to plan and what have you. Capricorn is roll up the sleeves. We got a mountain to climb. We got a lot of work to do. So this is actually doing the work of deep transformation and inner transformation right now, because you always do the inner work before the outer work. It does help. So this, as you know, you growing spiritually is helping you to do that inner work of transformation and deep inner healing. Now there's the shadow, and Neptune in Pisces is trying to numb and escape the pain any way it can. And you can numb it with video games, binge watching TV shows, recreational drugs, alcohol, whatever, but anything you do to numb and escape the pain and try to hide away. And that feeds a deeper wounding and sense of cynicism and bitterness, and can leave you feeling isolated, alone, and lost, literally stuck in an illusion that you can't really escape from. And this will actually be ending soon in the next 2 weeks, I think. And here's the second part of this wonderful transformation. Uranus in retrograde in Taurus, sextiling Neptune retrograde in Pisces. Uranus in Taurus. Uranus is the planet of individuality and authenticity. And in Taurus, you're learning to find a peace and stability of being yourself. Are you retrograde, inner work? How are you finding that inner peace, inner stability? How are you being true to yourself? And as you become true to yourself, this actually helps with you becoming, more, I'd say, more spiritually aware of yourself. And note, I do, when I'm talking about Neptune and spirituality, I talk about spirituality, not religion. Religion is the rules of man. Spirituality is your own personal connection to the divine. So as you become more true to yourself and who you are and find the peace and the inner peace and inner strength that comes from that, it actually helps to strengthen your connection and your interest to that divine, to your higher self, guardian angels, whatever. The shadow here is when you give up that individuality, and whether you're acting out or selling out, that leads to instability, laziness. It can be the proverbial bull in a china shop, and that leads to a desire to try to escape or numb the pain. And what else do I have here written in my notes? Yeah, power trips can become injurious to yourself first and foremost, and it can lead to feelings of deep loneliness and isolation. And our third super long transit, that this one's going to go to the end of October, is Uranus in a trine to Pluto retrograde in Capricorn. Trines are supports. A little bit of energy goes a long way. It's a very powerful transit. Again, and as you become authentic to yourself and true to yourself, and this is doing that inner work. If you can't tell the truth to yourself, you can't tell it to anybody. So as you find that peace and strength and stability of being true to yourself and learning who you really are in a way, that strengthens your ability to do that deep inner work, deep inner healing, deep inner transformation. Yeah, and help you to do that work. It also helps you recover the soul. I think that's the journey of Pluto, is the recovery of the soul. I like healing. I like the journey of the soul. I'm still working on how to interpret Pluto because it is an interesting little planet. And by the way, I will never call it a dwarf planet. Pluto is still a planet in my book. It's got an atmosphere, it's got 5 moons, and it's got the gall to sit down and say to Neptune and cut inside on its orbit. So, hey, a little sense of humor there. Okay, the shadow here. When you fall into that either acting out or selling out, when you're not true to yourself, you actually hurt yourself. And this leads to cynicism and bitterness. So that actually leads to deeper wounding. So as you lie to yourself, you hurt yourself. And I'm just going to leave it there. Ending this week, and this ends very early on Monday morning, you have the Sun in Virgo opposite Saturn retrograde in Pisces. Sun in Virgo, the Sun is your core identity. So in Virgo, you're looking to see more about who you really are. So look at your natal sun sign here first and foremost. So like, for example, I'm a natal Taurus. In Virgo, I'm looking at how I can be a better Taurus, solar Taurus, sun Taurus. So what is it I need to do? What work do I need to do? How can I do it? I can't get at my charger because my cat's on my bag. Never mind. And you're reflecting on Saturn retrograde in Pisces. Saturn is about maturity and learning, and in Pisces, it's learning to be present, learning, you could say learning to be spiritually present, learning to be in that moment. So as you're becoming as you're working on learning to become a better version of yourself, it's helping you to mature and be more present and be more aware. Let's see. Realizing who more of you are, you can build your self-respect and integrity. That's another thing. The shadow here is trying to hold yourself up to an unrealistic expectation that leads to, this leads to a power struggle, or leads you to life being out of balance, because as you're trying to hold yourself to this unattainable standard, it leads to cynicism and bitterness and a desire to escape. So when you fall into that false ego, it pulls you into fear and you leave feeling out of balance. And being selfish can lead to falling into the unhealthy ego and lead to feelings of despair and pessimism. And finally, on Sunday, very early Sunday morning, we did have the moon entering Virgo. So emotionally, you're looking to see where you can improve and take responsibility for what you're feeling. Make plans, take action. You are responsible for your emotional self. I do like to look at the moon as, I think the moon is the soul, actually, because it is your emotions, and I think the emotions will tell you what's going on in your soul very effectively. So that's where we're beginning this week. The shadow here, falling in, slipping into worry and being too hard on yourself can hold you down and draw you back. Do you really want to wrestle me, kitten? The one kitten kind of bonded to me. He's the runt of the litter, and he knows that when he's around me, the other cats will leave him alone. So Monday, we have the Sun in Virgo opposite Neptune retrograde in Pisces. This is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. The beginning of this week is going to be packed with energy. So the Sun, you learning to improve who you are, becoming the better version of your sun sign, better version of you. Making those plans, doing the examination, self-examination. And you're balancing this and reflecting on this with Neptune and Pisces. Your spiritual self, your higher self, is what you're doing in alignment with who with that higher spiritual self, your higher spiritual sense of who you are. Also your ability to find inspiration. So yeah. Yeah. And also, my notes here, I like this. Reflect on how spiritually can inform your identity and balance unity and self-identity, and balance unity with your self-identity and with your core self. I think being able to see, look at things and see things from a higher perspective, from this perspective of your higher self, can help you understand the journey better as well. The shadow here in the Sun in Virgo, holding yourself to these unrealistic expectations leads to life becoming out of balance. And Neptune in Pisces, you're trying to escape and numb the pain any way you can. Falling into the false ego, you pulls your life out of balance into an unachievable illusion. And this pessimism caused by the unrealistic expectations creates a desire to escape, or at least numb the pain of an empty and meaningless life. That's kind of what this is. Yeah. And our only transit of the week that's not dealing with the Sun, but it deals with Pluto. Mars in Virgo, having the courage to do the hard work of improving. This is strengthening yourself. Squares are challenges, and this is a challenge that's designed to strengthen you. Think of that weightlifter. They get these. What's up, Ghost? What do you need, buddy? It's okay. So, think of a bodybuilder. They get strong by lifting weights. If I gave a bodybuilder and had him do all his workout, but only with 2.5 pound weights, he might get toned, but he's never going to bulk up. So this is a challenge. It's designed to strengthen you. And as you meet this challenge, what's the challenge? You're challenging your ability to do the inner work of deep healing and deep transformation. So as you're gaining that knowledge and doing that work, how is that strengthening your inner ability to heal and transform? Let's see. Yeah. Yeah, and as you practice self-discipline, it can help you develop the skills in recovering what you thought may have been lost. So it's really cool there. Now, the shadow here. Mars falls into fear, and fear can be expressed as anger, can be expressed as cowardice. And in Virgo, it's unrealistic expectations, which leads to fussy negativity, crippling self-criticism. Yeah. And that becomes a crushing burden, which hurts your ability to do the inner work of transformation. And that leads to deeper wounding, ripping open old wounds, reinforcing old wounds, becoming a crushing burden that leads to feelings of lonely emptiness and feeling driven to achieve the impossible. This is a long journey of healing. It could be feeling like you have to do too much healing right now instead of just a little bit that you're being called to work on at this moment. And that can lead to feelings of cynicism and just focusing on everything that's wrong rather than seeing what can be right. Okay, buddy, watch out. That's my cup of tea. Yeah. And this will be a little bit longer transit. It starts on the 22nd. It goes exact early on the 24th and it ends late on the 25th. We really got to put those times in. And finally, our last transit on Monday. I'm sorry for getting this out, but teaching has been a little exhausting for me trying to get back into the routine of getting up at 5 in the morning and going to bed a little bit earlier than 11 o'clock. But we have the Sun in Virgo trining Uranus retrograde in Taurus. So as you're learning about your sun sign and who you are and how you can be better at being that reinforces your individuality and finding the peace and strength with becoming more authentic. Yeah, and so gaining clarity and a sense of reason helps you to find the peace and stability that helps you establish yourself. And again, Virgo, I like to think of Virgo as Virgo can be developed, learning about and developing those skills. So as you become more skilled in who you are, it reinforces your authentic self and helps you find that peace. And just let me get my doodle tool. This sets up a grand trine, which I'll be talking about, because as you become more skilled in becoming who you are, you finding that peace. And Uranus is trining that Pluto, and that helps to feed that Pluto in Capricorn, the work of deep inner healing and deep restoration. Clear that all out. All right, so that's Monday and Tuesday. This is that wonderful grand trine that I was talking about. And you have the Sun in Virgo trining Pluto in Capricorn. So as you become more skilled at being who you are, this supports your ability to do that deep inner healing and that deep inner transformation. And what makes this a grand trine? And let me get my doodle tool here. Here we go. You've got the Sun. It's trining Uranus, and it's also trining Pluto. And Uranus is also trining Pluto. So you have these two planets both acting. It's kind of like a focal point in a way. You've got these two slower planets. Yeah, Uranus moving slow, orbits the Sun once every 84 years. But they're both the Sun and Uranus are, as they do their work, becoming more skilled at who you are. becoming more authentic, helps you to do that deep work of inner transformation. And these are all earth signs. That's another part of the Grand Trine. Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn are all earth signs. So this is grounding yourself in reality too. That's another way I like to, when I'm looking at earth signs, I'm thinking about physical reality in a way. And also, things being really physically real and things that are tangible. I like to think of that as well. Let me grab hold on a second. Yeah, I got it right here. Just a quick note here that I was looking at because I was looking this up. Yeah, in Earth. You're learning self-discipline in Virgo. Here in Taurus, you're learning persistence. So as you learn self-discipline and persistence, this helps you to do great work. And what's the great work? That deep inner healing. So this can be a very powerful moment of healing. The shadow, as the ego gets out of control and falls into that pessimism, it feeds this, acting out or selling out. You're just looking for something, the easy way out doesn't happen, or that bitterness, pessimism, and what have you just feeds an explosive anger. That's the other thing. Taurus can be lazy, but I also liken it to the bull in the china shop, just that uncontrolled anger. Aries can be fear. This is just blind animalistic rage, I think, in Taurus. And when all that negative energy feeds into Capricorn, that is just deep cynicism. And when you got Pluto, nihilism feeding into cynicism, your life just gets really crappy, dark, fast. And so when we fall into that, this Grand Trine falls into the shadow, that laziness, defensiveness, resisting change, falling into pessimism and bitterness and unrealistic expectations. It kind of feels like you're frustrating and beating your head against a wall and not able to go anywhere, do anything, or achieve anything. And it feeds this big sense of failure. So that's the Grand Trine. And we're going to be feeling that Tuesday, Wednesday, and a little into Thursday. If I was operating on wider transits, just 1 degree, we would be feeling this more already. But this Tuesday and into Wednesday is when it is going to be feeling most intense. You will be feeling it residual afterwards, but not for long. Sun pretty moves very fast. So, oops, wait a minute. Wednesday, as we're experiencing this, do remember to take a break, take a breather too. Remember to exhale, repeat. So the universe in its wisdom said, you're going through something a little intense, take a break. As you're working through it, remember to chill out. Thursday, we have the moon entering Libra. So after going through all that, emotionally, you're going to feel a little wobbly. Think of scales in science class. You put the weight on one end, you put the weight, the object that you're weighing on the other end. I probably just said that backwards, and the scales go up and down. So things may feel a little out of balance. Things may feel a little ambiguous. That's okay. That's normal. Think of the wind, it never just constantly blows at one speed. It rises and it falls. So your emotions may rise and they may fall. Learn to surf, so to speak. Your waves here are winds, but It's like flying a kite. You have to know when to pull it in and when to let it go out. So, so take a breath. Um, know how to feel where you are at the moment. Be open to ambiguity and paradox. Things aren't going to make sense. That's okay. Just pause and recognize what's going on in the world around you. That's good. The shadow here is being pulled emotionally out of balance, and trying to force things to be what they are not can lead to decisions made out of insecurity rather than clarity. And it's just going to throw everything out of balance. And this will be late Friday night. We're talking after 11 o'clock at night Eastern time. The moon will enter Scorpio. So it's a time of emotional intensity, which can be a good thing, and emotional depth, the time to really feel what you're feeling. So be willing to open up and face unsettling emotional truths, and be able to move beyond the superficial and face what is deeper beneath them. Okay. And this is for you yourself, Wizard of Oz, don't look behind the curtain. No, you know what? It's time to pull the curtain back. Okay, here's Don's theory on the Wizard of Oz. It wasn't about Dorothy, it was about Toto. Because when they're in Oz, they're in the halls of Oz, and they're facing the great and powerful Oz, and you see all that whatever. It wasn't Dorothy that pulled back the curtain. It was Toto. Who did the Wicked Witch of the West kidnap? Toto. Often think Oz and the Wicked Witch of the West were in cahoots. But nonetheless, you're facing deep emotional truths. Explore them. Pull back the curtains. See what's behind them. And once you know what's behind them, that can lead you to the next phase. Now, the shadow here is where you fall into that deep, dark, foul, and rotten mood. And this complicates things unnecessarily. Saturday, take a breath. Remember to exhale. Repeat. You're going to be working on those Scorpio moods. It's okay. Okay, the kitten has calmed down. And on Sunday, early Sunday morning, the moon will enter Ophiuchus. And the sign of Ophiuchus, I said, is that of a man holding a snake, wounded healer. It's a time to learn how to heal yourself. You're ready to you faced your deep emotional truths. Now you're getting a day to heal. Turn off the football games. Heal. But if it's a rugby game, you can watch that. Okay, so focus on your emotional healing. Be open to teachers. What is going to help you gain the knowledge so that you can heal? And be open to healers and people who can help you. Also look into the wisdom of the wound. What could you learn? What do you learn from your wounds? And maybe the lesson that you learn from the wound helps you to heal it. The shadow here, instead of healing the wound, you become the wound. You refuse to heal, you own it. And instead of healing yourself, in healing, being an example to help heal others, you wound yourself badly and you wound others. Misery loves company. And you know what? Nobody loves the person that wounded them. Honestly, they really hate them. And in doing so, not only do you hurt others, but you bring greater harm to yourself. And that is where we end the week. And this sets us up nicely for next week, Monday. And this is my final notice on this on next week, Saturday. This is the first ever sidereal astrology conference, which is really cool. It's a ISSA, International Sidereal Astrology Association, is an organization that is dedicated to the different varieties of sidereal astrology, which is astrology by the visible sky. Athan Shimenti, who is kind of one of the leaders of the movement, I would say. But he is certainly one of the most well-known. He's actually the gentleman that I took my sidereal astrology course from, and what have you. One of the teachers I had be chairing the conference, or he'd be the keynote speaker, actually. Gary O'Toole is really good. He does Vedic astrology. He's interesting to listen to. Dr. Danny Inman will also be speaking. There'll be a number of different panels on, I know about houses. I can't remember what else. There'll be Q&A sessions. There'll be prizes. You register for it. You'll be put in for the drawing for prizes. So everybody's got different prizes going. Register. When you go to that place, you'll see the link. Click on it. And it's the first ever conference. And it starts at 10 o'clock it goes to 3 o'clock in the afternoon with breaks. So, hey, why not? So if you did like this, do follow me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. These all are gaining billions of dollars off of your data. There's another place you can go to. It's called Digital Soul Space, and they're hosted on the Mighty Networks. And the key thing here is that you control how your data is used and who can get access to it. Mighty Networks is all about privacy. So Mighty Networks lets you control your data. And I do astrology on this. There are other astrologers. There's crystals, tarot, oracle decks, a wide variety of spiritual traditions, different pagan traditions, Wicca, Norse, Native American, you name it, it's on there. Gnostic Christianity. I mean, there's just a wide variety of spiritual practices, etc. And it's a place where you can go ask questions. Everyone and anyone who knows anything about it will chip in. There are 4 great moderators that keep it being a troll-free zone, so it's really safe too. It's a great place, and right now it's all free, but starting in October, there will new members. There'll be a paid version. You'll have limited access to certain boards, and then if you want to pay, if you want to access the other boards, it's like $1.99 a month to have access to full things. They do run on donations, so any donations is of course greatly appreciated. But this is an awesome place to hang out and ask questions. So I do readings, and there's a quick 6. If you just want to get a quick overview of how your chart will change under true sidereal astrology, quick 6 will do it. I do the birth chart or natal chart, which in evolutionary astrology is your birth contract. It's not who you are, it's who you came here to become. So it's not the beginning, it's the end. Think Stephen Covey, begin with the end in mind. So this is what you measure yourself up to at the end of your life. I also do what's called a karmic or a past life reading. So if you're wondering why this always happens to me, we can look at this karmic or past life reading. There are people who believe in past lives. In this life, you came here to heal the karma of a past wound, and I can tell you what that wound was and how it was created, how it's showing up in this life, what the archetype is, but also how you heal it. If you're a one and done, it's a special lesson that you came here to learn. And I do horoscopes. Hey, that's why this broadcast exists. And I do 1 year, which is 12 solar months, any 3 months in a row, or any 1 month. And there are people who like 1 month being the first of the month, the last of the month, or there are people who like it to be the new moon to new moon, any 30 oddish days in a row. I'm good with it. And then I have packages which combine those together, and they have a built-in 10% discount. So thank you very much for watching this. I apologize these for being late, but I've been getting back into being a school librarian again and just adjusting to that life again. So do like, follow, share. If you do go to my website and you get that pop-up, enter an email address. I do a once-a-week newsletter. If you accidentally closed it out, you'll see in the upper right-hand corner a black subscribe button. Click on that. Just enter an email address. You'll see links for the blog. You'll see services where you schedule your readings. And if you got questions, email me. I'm more than happy to answer them. So thank you. Like, follow, share, sign up for the newsletter. And remember, in the visible sky, your life changes. Thank you very much and have the best week possible.